Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we're just gonna have a little bit of fun, do something a little bit different. This idea popped into my head and I thought that's a pretty good topic to do a video on. And we're gonna be talking about Sophomore Slump albums, specifically the opposite of Sophomore Slumps. You always hear about Sophomore Slumps, bands that put out an awesome debut but then just don't live up to it on that second album. But today we're going to be talking about 25 bands that do the exact opposite. Not only did they follow up an excellent debut with a standout album, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these next 25 bands that I'm going to talk about actually released their best album for their second album. In their entire career, in my opinion, their best album was their sophomore album. So these are just 25 that came to my mind right away. I'm sure there's a ton more, and as usual with these videos, it's always fun to get your picks. Give me them in the comments down below. Let me know which ones I've missed. I'm sure there's some on here that are clearly just my opinions. There could be other albums by these same bands that the masses may think are better than these sophomore albums, but these are just my thoughts and opinions, and I just thought this would be a fun idea to do. So definitely give me your picks. And I'm just going to get right into this. This is not in any specific order. This isn't ranked. This is just 25 albums that are, in my opinion, the best in these bands' discography that happen to be their sophomore albums. So, to kick it off, I'm going to go with Dissection and Storm of the Light's Bane. This, of course, was the follow-up to the Somber Lane. This is a tough one, as I absolutely love both of those albums. Two of my all-time favorite albums across any genre. But I've always given the slight edge to Storm of the Light's Bane. I think it is the best album they did in their discography. So yeah, definitely no Sophomore Slump by Dissection there. They absolutely killed it with this album. Easy choice for this list. Up next, I'm going with Cirith Ungol and their sophomore album, King of the Dead. So this followed up their debut album, Frost and Fire, which, in my opinion, is an excellent album as well, has some really standout tracks, but they really took it up a notch for this follow-up album, dialed up the Doom influences, and it was really just more of a focused effort from front to back. It's a little more cohesive as an album. And even though they've put out some solid albums since then, I feel that King of the Dead is their best album in their discography. Up next, let's go with Death and Leprosy. So this one, arguably, every Death album could be considered their best, depending on your mood or on your perspective, but to me, Leprosy has just always been the definition of old school death metal. In my opinion, it is their best. It's not a knock on any of their other albums. I absolutely love every Death album, but for me, Leprosy is their best, and the fact that it's a sophomore album made it a very easy choice for this list. Up next, let's go with Seor and their sophomore album, Aura. This is one of my favorite bands these days, have never released a bad album. It's really tough to even say which is their favorite, but Aura is always the album I find myself going back to the most. I absolutely love their debut, Roots. I love the follow-up to Aura, Guardians, and Forgotten Paths, and their newest one, Origins. They're all absolutely amazing, but if I had to pick one, I would go with Aura. That's why I'm putting it here. Up next, let's go with some Canadian content with Woods of Ypres, with Woods 2, Pursuit of the Sun, and Allure of the Earth. So their debut EP album, Woods 1, was definitely more rooted in black metal, but still had some hints of doom. But then here is where they still had a basis in black metal, but really started bringing in more doom influence. And it is just their masterpiece, in my opinion. It's not a knock on their later works either. I like everything they ever did. But to me, Woods 2 is clearly their best album, and that's why it made my choices here. All right, up next, an all-time classic, King Diamond with Abigail. Of course, that's going to be on here. This is one of my favorite albums of all time by anyone. One of the best heavy metal albums in history, in my opinion. And yeah, once again, this is not a knock on any of his other albums. I just feel like Abigail was his crowning achievement, and it was the sophomore outing. Absolutely amazing. Go listen to it if you have not. Up next, going with Borknagar and the Olden Domain. So in their early days, it started out as kind of a super group, bringing in tons of Norwegian black metal legends. You have Garm from Ulver, you've got Ivar from Enslaved, it was just insane, the lineup here. This is their masterpiece. I absolutely love their later albums as well, once they brought in Wintersorg and the albums with ICS Vortex as well. But back here with Garm, this is just perfection. Absolutely great album. Their best, in my opinion. Okay, let's switch things up completely and go with Rainbow and Rising. One of the best, like, classic albums ever. In my opinion, easily their best. I mean, I do really like their first and third albums as well, but I feel like Rising is a notch above. One of the best albums of all time. Ronnie James Dio's vocals are amazing. Richie Blackmore's riffs are great. It's just, all in all-time classic. A very easy choice for this list. All right, up next, going with Ensiferum and Iron. This is another debatable one. Is Iron technically their best album? I don't know. I mean, Victory Songs, the follow-up, is absolutely amazing as well, and I even love the debut. But for me, this was just the pinnacle of their early career, and these songs are just catchy and stand the test of time. You've got like Lila Hey and Into Battle, two of my favorite Ensiferum songs ever, both on this album. It just propels it to being my favorite by them, and yeah, their second album, they just really hit it out of the park here. All right, up next, maybe a controversial one. Blut Nord with Fathers of the Icy Age, or Memoria Vetusta Part 1. So I'm sure you ask most people what their favorite Blut Nord album is. It's not going to be this. I know I'm in the minority, but to me, this is the album by far that I go back to the most. I absolutely love this style of music that they play. They've had so many different sounding albums, whether it's the avant-garde or industrial stuff. And here it's more just like melodic black metal, but really with their own spin on it. And I just absolutely love the songs here. The bass work really shines as well, which I don't say too often about black metal. So yeah, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think by far this is the best Blut Nord album. It's the one I go back to the most. And that's why I put it on my list. All right, let's switch it up to some thrash with Testament and the New Order. Another debatable one. For me, it's always a toss-up between the Legacy and the New Order for what my favorite Testament album is. But I feel like I usually lean to the New Order. The songs on here are just absolutely amazing. The solos rip. Chuck Billy's vocals are great. Everything about this album I love. That's why it's here. All right, moving this right along. Let's go with Exhumed and Slaughtercult. This is probably a debatable one as well. Might not be everyone's favorite album by Exhumed, but for me, it is. I mean, I've never been disappointed by an Exhumed album, whether it's gore metal or Anatomy is Destiny, or even their newest. But honestly, Slaughtercult is just on another level compared to the rest. I fucking love how aggressive and crazy this album is. The riffs are insane, the solos shred, and the trade-off between the low and high vocals is just death metal masterpiece. I fucking love it. That's why it's on here. Okay, let's go back with some more black metal with Summoning and Minas Morgul. So their debut album was more like a traditional black metal album. Still had some keyboard elements in there, but here, even though it's their sophomore album, this was really the first album that is the established Summoning sound that we have come to know and love. And I feel like this one is just perfection. One of the best black metal albums of all time. Really just has the perfect atmosphere. No band does it like this. And yeah, super easy choice to be on this list for me. All right, let's switch it up again with some traditional heavy metal and Heavy Load with Death or Glory. Another debatable one is Death or Glory or Stronger Than Evil, their better album. I don't know. I fucking love them both. I think they're both a step above their debut, but nonetheless, Death or Glory is the one that I am going with as my favorite by them. It's just all-time classic. So many hooks. So catchy, and they're such an underrated band. I feel like I talk about them a ton on this channel, so you might be sick of hearing me talk about them, but come on, go listen to them if you have not. They're a great band. All right, maybe some more controversy here with this next pick, Opeth and Morning Rise. That is my personal favorite Opeth album. I know I'm vastly in the minority on this one. Everyone usually tends to go to Still Life or Blackwater Park, but for me, it is this. Morning Rise is just a masterpiece. You've got Black Rose Immortal, super long, epic song, so amazing. And then the closing track, To Bid You Farewell, is not heavy. It's not even really a metal song, but it is gorgeous. It's probably my favorite Opeth song, even though it's all clean singing. I absolutely love it. And this album from front to back, there's no disappointing moments. Fucking love it. My favorite Opeth album. That's why it's here. All right, let's keep this going. back with some more Canadian content with Forteresse and their second album, Les Hivers de notre epoque. So yeah, another one that's very tough to pick a favorite album. I mean, their debut was amazing, and even their most recent album is probably the most aggressive thing they've ever done. But to pick a favorite, I usually go with this one. It just has that perfect atmosphere, the ambiance that they capture here. Fucking gorgeous. This is another super underrated band that more people need to go listen to. So if you have not heard this album by Forteresse, do yourself a favor and go check it out. All right, let's go with some power metal now. I don't think I've talked about really any power metal yet on this list. Sonata Arctica with Silence. So yeah, another debatable one. Their debut Ecliptica is amazing, but to me, Silence took it up a notch, dialed up the songwriting a little bit. It's so catchy. It's very like happy sounding power metal, but I absolutely love it. The solos and keyboard parts are amazing, and the vocals are really catchy and hooky as well. Really awesome stuff here. If you haven't given Sonata Arctica a chance, at least go check out this album because it kicks ass. All right, up next, some more death metal with Monstrosity and their sophomore album, Millennium. This is when they still had George Corpsegrinder Fisher in the band before he left to join Cannibal Corpse. And wow, this album kicks so much ass. The guitar playing is so technical, the drumming is great, and Corpsegrinder is one of his best vocal performances ever. Like, honestly, he suited these songs so perfectly. It's just absolutely amazing. I can't rave about this one enough. I think it's another little bit of an underrated band and album, but definitely go check it out if you have not. All right, up next, going with Winter Filleth and the Mercian Sphere. Some atmospheric black metal from England. A tough one to pick what their favorite, my favorite album is by them, but I always lean towards this album. Ghost of Heritage, their debut, is great, and even the subsequent albums after this, The Divination of Antiquity, Threnody of Triumph, The Reckoning Dawn, they're all amazing. But I find myself going to this one a little bit more. It is very long, that might not be for everyone, but it's so epic, and these songs are so memorable. Just amazing atmospheric black metal. Absolutely love it. Let's go with some more thrash now with Sodom and Persecution Mania. So, wow, yeah, absolutely amazing. This was a tough one for me. I always kind of juggle between this and Agent Orange for my favorite Sodom album. But for today, I'm going with Persecution Mania, the sophomore outing. I think they really hit their peak here. Still like blackened thrash, blackened speed metal at this point in their career. And it's just great. This early era, blackened style of thrash, I absolutely love. One of the best out there. And this is probably their best album, at least in my opinion. Okay, we got 5 more to go. Let's see what it's gonna be. Let's go with some more death metal with Obituary and Cause of Death. This one, to me, no debate about what their best album is. I think it slays everything else they've ever done. It's not even close. Cause of Death, easily their best album. Just such memorable songs. It shut it out! I can't talk about Obituary without doing that. I'm sorry. It happens. Great album. Easy choice. Up next, some more power metal, Helloween with Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. So yeah, their debut album, Walls of Jericho, was definitely more rooted in speed metal, still had Kai Hansen doing vocals. Then they switched it up a little bit, brought in Michael Kiske to do lead vocals, and it took them in a different direction. Kai Hansen was still there as the principal songwriter and lead guitarist. And wow, this album, it was just a match made in heaven bringing in Michael Kiske. The soaring vocals just really suited these songs. And this album is one of the best power metal albums of all time. Easily Helloween's best, and that's why I'm putting it here. All right, 3 more to go. Up next, I'm going with Vehemence, The Shirt I Am Wearing, Parlaysang Verse. This is very tough whether I like this album or their newest one, Ordali's better. I tend to go with Parlaysang Verse, probably because it was the first album I heard by them, and it just absolutely floored me, just knocked my socks off. Their debut, Assiege, is still pretty good, but it wasn't until this album that they really fully developed their style, and the vocals got better as well with the new vocalist. And yeah, there's just so many medieval folky melodies going on here. One of my favorite albums ever. Had to be here. All right, 2 more to go. Up next, going back with some more death metal with Morbid Angel and Blessed Are the Sick. So maybe some more controversy here. Probably not everyone's, not the popular choice for what their best album is. Most would either go with Covenant or Altars of Madness. But for me, Blessed Are the Sick has always been a notch above. The songs on here are just catchy. It's a little bit different. It's not just as, I don't want to say Altars of Madness is one note, because it's not. I fucking love Altars of Madness, but here they experimented a little bit more, especially in the guitar department, and it just resulted in one of my favorite death metal albums ever. That's why I'm putting it here. Alright, one more to talk about today. Like I said, this isn't ranked, so don't worry about that, what order any of this is. But the last one I'll talk about today is Merciful Fate with Don't Break the Oath. Arguably, is this better than Melissa, or is Melissa better than this? Even some of their comeback albums were great as well, but for me, Don't Break the Oath is the album I go back to the most. I listen to Melissa a ton too, don't get me wrong, but this album is just an all-time fucking classic. King Diamond's vocals, amazing. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk about how much I love King Diamond on this channel too, but that's just what I do. I'm going to talk about what I love, so if you don't like it, too bad. Anyways, these were just my picks. 25 bands that did not have a sophomore slump that actually released their best album on their second outing. And like I said, please give me your picks down below. Always like to have some fun with lists like this. So yeah, until next time, Hammer Heart Metal Reviews, out.